Hello. The interesting thing about spiritual awakening is that silence becomes normal. But another part of spirituality is also that you start to receive downloads and understanding things without having to learn them. And one of these interesting things is that I was suddenly able to read soul missions or understand soul missions. And awakening itself is also part of the soul mission. And one of the misunderstandings of awakening is, first, it's already planned in your soul mission. So there's nothing to be done. And for others, it's just not meant to be, so you cannot be a missionary to them. And once you understand that, you can relax into your own soul mission and just be content with that soul mission. And it's very important to understand that when we talk about ego and these things, you have to know exactly what it is if you're talking about it. And ego is nothing else than libido. It's an overdriven libido. I talked about this many times. And so spirituality is not about letting go of ego. Spirituality is about letting go of fighting with your soul mission. Because you cannot forcibly awaken. You cannot forcibly awaken others. That's why satsang in a lot of ways also doesn't make sense. Unless it is meant for the souls that are there to awaken anyway. And so you cannot see life out of the context of the soul mission or the soul plan. I noticed in my tantra massages and in a lot of spiritual sessions and other, just observing beings, that their soul mission is given. There is no possibility for jumping out of one soul mission into another soul mission. You cannot go from being Mooji to being Bill Gates, or from Bill Gates to Mooji. It doesn't work. That's also the reason why the people with certain soul missions always stay in that soul mission. Because the parameters are set. That's why Mooji is a spiritual teacher. It doesn't mean he's the only one spiritually awakened or the only one, but it means that his soul mission is to make other souls realize they're not their conditioning. Anybody who's awakened could theoretically be also a non-duality teacher, but it's not necessarily in their soul mission. And when you push in the direction where your soul mission is not, you will encounter frustration, unhappiness, all these things. And only when you let go into your soul mission, when you let go of the conditioning in order to accept your soul mission, and that's the thing, you don't have to awaken necessarily in order to be content. Because consciousness itself is already awake, maybe there is no awareness of the self from the outside, but from the inside, it's the same nonetheless. That is the fascinating thing about awakening and soul mission, is that everything fits like a puzzle. And I think a lot of people make the mistake, or a lot of beings make the mistake, that they fight with their soul mission. And the less you fight with it, the healthier you will feel, the happier you will feel, the more content you will feel, the more peaceful you will feel. I wondered for quite some time, why am I not a non-duality teacher if there was a spiritual awakening? Why is there some non-duality teachers and others are not? And I realized it's not in my soul mission to do that, because otherwise I would feel what the soul mission is. And if that were my soul mission, I would feel an intuitive feeling of joy, love, gratification, whatever, awakening others, other beings. But I realized in my soul plan is just to be the spiritual observer. And therefore I can let go of the idea of non-duality and all this. This is why I'm very, very skeptical about non-duality teachers where I'm not so 100% sure. Let me rephrase that. Wait. The soul mission of some people being in the public eye is not always about other souls. Sometimes it is about the reflection to their own soul. And so they are stuck in a kind of loop until they recognize something themselves. And others might confuse that as that they are helping. For example, I know of a spiritual or esoteric YouTuber. For her, it's all about herself. She has to realize something. It's not about the viewers. And she misleads in that way a lot of other viewers. And there are certain people that their soul mission is to change other souls. Fully or partially, or interesting enough, when I think about Mooji's soul plan and soul mission, which just came to my mind, I feel interestingly, intuitively, I feel it's not so much about others. We have to figure out to what degree, but it's also about himself. And I think the awakening of himself, of the self to the self, so to speak, has happened with Mooji in order to forgive for the past, for the things that has happened with his sister, with his family, mother and father. It makes all so much sense. So it's not that much I feel like intuitively, I feel his soul plan has to do more with himself forgiving, being able to forgive for the past, rather than changing other people's lives so much. But in the process of himself letting go, he changes other people naturally. I'm just feeling into it, if it feels congruent and intuitive. Yeah, it feels like he fell into this spiritual awakening hole in which he was able to, or is able to, forgive. And at the same time, he kind of made it deep enough for others to fall also into it. That's how it feels like for me. Because I remember certain things in some satsang videos where I was surprised to hear Mooji talk about the past or connect something with the past where I was like, it seems that there's some things not resolved. So I'm usually right with these things. So Mooji's soul plan has to do with himself for being forgiving of what happened in the past, and thereby falling so deep into it that he pulls others with him into spiritual awakening. That's how it clearly feels for me. But I don't see him as the big guru as people make him out to be. I mean, he has an awakening and he shares that, but I don't see him, I don't see his soul mission in it. I think it has more to do with himself. I will definitely feel more into that, because it's interesting, because through him there was the awakening. But I also felt that the awakening in itself is not something special. It is inherent to everyone. And to explain it, even the non-awakened ones are awakened in a way. So because there's no difference anymore. But I realized there's something more to life than just awakening, kind of. And I believe it's the soul mission. I sense it's the soul mission. Because if it were not so, everyone would awaken by the same words, which doesn't happen. So the soul mission has a certain parameters, and awakening is just possibly one part of it. I really get a strong sense of feeling that Mooji's awakening is about himself, not about others. But I know, for example, one YouTuber, she's not awakened, but I know that her YouTube is about giving joy to others. Interestingly enough, I very clearly feel that. Although there was no awakening with her, but is it necessarily? No, because she's fulfilling her soul mission anyway. So that's why I always say also that awakening and everything around it is very subjective, because it's literally like, if I say very clearly, it's about your subjective experience of what it seems like, and not what somebody else feels like. Because if it were about what someone else feels like, then you would be content with Mooji being awakened and you not. And he, for example, being peaceful and you're not. But it's about you as the soul, how you experience your path, your subjective path. So, and just be clear, it's not about the ego, because the ego is misunderstood. The ego is nothing else than the biological desire to procreate and survive. That's it. There's nothing spiritual about having or not having ego. It's literally the same. So understanding your soul path can give you peace without having need to be awakened. This is the interesting thing, is because you can I just know the German word right now. I mix the languages, all kinds of languages in my head. You can give in to your soul path and thereby get soul peace in a way. So it literally makes no sense for me to teach you non-duality, to realize you're not your thoughts, unless it's in your soul mission anyway. It's really bizarre. And I shouldn't teach it unless I feel it's in my soul path, in my soul mission to do that, in my soul plan, which it is not. And I feel it wouldn't even be more if I were just to sit in silence. It wouldn't become more. The desire to teach non-duality wouldn't become more. Very interesting.